Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. And this is an Affinity photo tutorial and it is going to be called Making a Better Black and White Image, and this is part 2, and it's going to be making a fake HDR image. Now in part 1, what I did was, it does work better on like a landscape image where it's a lot easier to divide up sections of an image, be the sky or a section of the land. So you have like 3, maybe 4 sections, and you can convert them using the black and white adjustment tool, but just on the 3 or 4 sections that you've divided the image into. Now an image like this be much harder to divide into sections because it's a much more cluttered image, and I think that'd be almost impossible to do. So sort of making this into a fake HDR image might be a better road to go down. And there's people who know anything about HDR images, it's basically you take 3 shots of the same, or 3 or more shots I should say, of the same scene, and then you blend them together, because they're all set at different exposures, and this way you bring out the shadows and the highlights and the detail, and you can get a much better image depending on your taste and whether you like HDR images. So this is what I'm going to do with this image here, which is, if you want to know, this is in Norwich, which I took quite a while ago. When was this? 2016, March 2016, so that's what, a year ago I took this now. So now normally if you were going to just wanted to make an image black and white quickly, you could either just use the HSL adjustment and just drag the saturation down to 0, and you have a very quick black and white image, which is okay, but it's not too special, nothing particularly brilliant about it, but it's adequate. Let me just get rid of that. And the other way of doing this is to use the black and white tool, where you can alter the luminosity of various colors. This might be a slightly better option if you just want to do a very quick alteration. So you just alter the various colors to get a slightly better image, and then it's just a case of doing things by eye to see what works and what doesn't. I'm just doing this fairly quickly. There we go. Make the sky a bit darker. About there. I doubt this would do much. No. You can push it a bit further, but you start to sort of pixelate the image. So I'll just leave that like that. So you probably get a slightly better black and white image by using the black and white tool rather than just using the hue saturation and just bringing the saturation down to 0. You do have some control over which areas are darker or lighter. So I will leave this image as is, and we can use this for comparison. And I have another version of this image open, so that we're now going to make this into the fake HDR image. The first thing you want to do is to duplicate this layer twice. You can either do it by right clicking on this layer in the layers display area here, and come into duplicate, or you can just press Ctrl and J twice. So I'll use this menu once and press Ctrl and J once. So I now have 3 versions of this layer. So we're going to work on the very top layer first of all, and we're going to come to the Adjustments tab, and we are going to add a Levels adjustment tool. And what we want to do is to make the image darker. Now this and all the sort of settings I'm going to use in this video are what I think work with my particular image. You will need to use trial and error on your own images to see which works best for your image. Now this fake HDR process sort of really does work quite well on buildings and architecture, because there is a lot of details and what have you in there that you can help bring out. I mean, you could use it on almost anything really, but it does work quite well on buildings. So for my particular one, I'm going to increase the black level up to around about 30%. So there we go, 30. So I have already made it quite darker, and these shadows are really quite dark now, almost black. I'm just going to bring the white down a little bit more, down to let's go to about 85%. It's just to sort of brighten up the light areas again, and it does make these areas still quite dark. And what I want to do, I'm going to merge this into the layer, not just turn it off. So I'll merge that, so we still just have the 3 layers. And then I'm going to take the tick away from this top layer to hide it, and then I'm going to come down and highlight the middle layer, and then I'm going to do this, a very similar thing. Come to the adjustment tool, add a levels adjustment, but this time we are going to make it much brighter. So I'm going to move the white level quite a long way. I'm going to go to about 60% or so. There we go, 60%. Now you may push it so far that some of these areas, especially like these clouds I've got up here, are completely blown out. There's absolutely no detail whatsoever. It's just like pure white. But that doesn't really matter so much for this process. So I've got one image that's really quite dark, one image that's really quite light, and one image that is a normal setting. So again, I'm going to click on merge. So I still only have the 3 layers, and what I can do now is to highlight this top layer, turn the visibility back on, and I'm going to come to the flood selection tool, or you can just press W on the keyboard, but it's the icon for the flood selection tool is over here on the left. Now you want to set tolerance to about 10%, and where it's got contiguous, it's got a tick in it. Take that tick out, and you want to find the darkest part of your image, which for me it would be this block over here, which is almost perfect black. I would imagine it's not far off it. So I'll just click once in there, and as you can see it has picked and selected colours that are very similar to where I clicked. So, but I actually want the reverse of what is selected, so I will come up to the select menu and invert pixel selection, or you can press Ctrl, Shift and I. Now this will be now selecting everything but the dark areas, and I'm just going to feather this. So I come to the select menu again and feather, or you can press Shift and F6. Now I'm going to push the feather selection quite high-ish. I'm going to sort of round about somewhere between 40 to 50%. Oh, that'll do. I'm on 49.8. I'm not going to sort of faff around too much with that, but I'll just click apply, and once that is applied I'm going to add a layer mask, and this will make a layer mask of what is selected. And the layer mask option is this first square down here in the bottom of the layers display area, and so I will just click on that, and then it will add that layer mask. So I can now press Ctrl and D to get rid of that selection. So I will hide this top layer and then come down to the middle layer, and we're going to pretty much do the same thing as we did before. In that way I'm already still on the flood selection tool. I'm still on 10%, and contiguous is still unticked, and now I'm going to find the whitest part of the image, which is going to be one of these clouds up here, and it looks to me to be about there. So now it will pick all the light areas. So again I'm going to come to select invert pixel selection, and then select feather, and again I'm going to come up to the between 40 and 50, 46.2, that will do. I will click apply. I will then add a layer mask to that. There we go. And then I can press Ctrl and D to get rid of the selection area. And then now if I turn the top layer back on, we now have a much more HDR looking type of image. Now, especially where the white areas are selected down here, they're probably not that great, and you probably would reject this as a HDR image because of that. On my particular image, it may be okay on yours, and if you're happy like with the result that you're getting with this sort of fake HDR in colour, I mean, you could save the image and leave it at that. But as this is supposed to be a black and white tutorial, image tutorial, we're going to carry on to make this a black and white fake HDR image. So I'm going to highlight the top layer and go to right click and merge visible, and when you do that it makes a new layer with just a single image, which is a combination of all the bits we've done before. So what I'm going to do onto this is I'm going to add a high pass filter. So I'll come to filters, sharpen, high pass, and this will add sort of a grey overlay. And in the options box that comes up, I'm going to put a tick into monochrome, so it sort of takes the colour away, and I'm going to have a radius of around 10 pixels. And what the high pass filter does, it sort of adds texture or colour to the darker areas of the image to help accentuate and bring out some details. So if I click apply on that, and then I need to change the blending mode to overlay. Now if I turn this on and off, you can hopefully see that there's more detail, especially like in the building here, and possibly down this post and over here on these two posts in the foreground. So I'll turn this on and off a few times, and hopefully you can see the detail that has been brought out by that high pass filter. So again, if you want like your color version like this, you can again save it at this point. Now if you wanted to, you could even duplicate this layer to add extra detail. That is a personal choice, up to you. So you press right click that layer and come to duplicate. You'll add even more detail to the image. So again, I will turn this on and off a few times. So we now have a much more detailed image. And what we're now going to do is I'm going to right click this top layer and again come to merge visible, so it will make a new layer with everything that's gone on before. And I'm going to then come to filters, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to go fairly high with this, up to around the 30 pixel mark, and then just click apply. And then I'm going to change the blending mode. And there's three pretty good ones that you could use. I mean, you could use whichever one you want. If you like, that looks more like a draw, you know, an arty drawing that's on darker color. But the three main ones that you could use is overlay, soft light, and hard light. Now for me, the hard light, although it works quite well, you do lose a lot of the image and texture that we spent time putting into this. Soft light keeps most of, if not all of, the texture and detail that we've added, and overlay is a sort of middle ground between the hard light and soft light. Whether that's technically true, I really don't know, but that is how it looks to me visually. So I'm going to go with soft light because it gives me that extra detail that a HDR image would have. So now we've sort of come to the end of what we could do with the color, sort of fake color HDR image, but we are going to now make it black and white. So again, much like with the first version I did of this, you could either just click on hue saturation and lower the saturation down to as far as it goes to the left, or you can add the black and white adjustment tool and sort of tinker with the various color shades. But I'll just go with the HSL, drop that down to minus 100, and then after that I will come to the brightness and contrast tool, and I'm just going to alter the brightness and contrast to suit my image. I'm just going to darken it slightly by coming down to about minus 10 or so, and I'm going to bump up the contrast just to, let's go to about 20% on. Yes, I quite like that. So you've got a much moodier and more detailed black and white image. So if I come back to this first one, which just used the basic HSL or black and white tool just to get rid of the color quickly, to that image, which is a much more grittier, much more moodier, and helps bring out the details much better. Because if I've got the top one highlighted, if I come down to the one before the bottom, hold shift and click on that, all those will be highlighted. So I'll now turn off all these effects en masse. I mean, see, like I said, this area here and the post here and the building in the background, you can see how much detail this has been brought out by converting this into sort of a fake HDR. So this is the last adjustment I'm going to make to this. So now it'll just be a case of saving or exporting it and making sure that you save it under a new name so you preserve your original. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.